I'm going to show you step by step how to wind a single coil pickup, and I'm going to use the kit that I have available either by emailing me at stratomaster.products@gmail or on the TikTok shop. This is everything you need, including a pickup winder that comes with it. The kit comes with 42 gauge heavy form wire, which is used in a lot of vintage pickups, and it's enough to wind maybe 5 or 6 pickups depending on how hot you make them. The kit's going to come with my pre-assembled double tap bobbins, unless you don't want them to be for some reason. It's Alnico 5, and the poles are already taped off with acid-free tape, which actually comes with the kit anyway. So let's dive into it, and I'm going to show you how to make those single coil pickups. The bobbins come pre-labeled, so you can see on this one, the magnetic north is facing upward. The eyelets are pre-labeled. You can see ground, positive, and both taps. You can also see that this one is reverse wound and reverse polarity. If you don't want them to be pre-assembled, just because you want to save some money, or maybe you want to make your own coil height, that's totally fine. You can order them that way as well. I don't recommend doing that unless you're a little bit handy and you have a way to press in the magnets out, because that is kind of difficult. We're going to start off by taking some 320 grit sandpaper that we have in the kit, and we're just going to pinch it between our fingers and start stripping off that wire coating. So you can see here that we just got it so it's bare metal, that way it'll solder easy later. And we're going to look at the ground, because we always start with the ground eyelet. We're going to feed it through the top. That's very important. We're going to feed it around, we're going to feed it back over through itself 2-3 times. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of make sure it's snug and doesn't pull through. Next step is going to be to take the double-sided tape included in the kit and put it on the back of the bobbin. Make sure it's nice and sturdy. There is a hole in the mount where you can put a 440 screw if you want, but this is probably the better way to do it, at least if you're starting. You want to take a screwdriver and you want to make sure that you're centering it in the middle of that mount. So what you're going to do is poke it through and then just get that in the guide hole there, and then just push the pickup onto it just like that, and make sure it's all nice and even. That way it doesn't warble around while you're trying to wind it, because that will give you an uneven coil. Once you have that on there, you're going to set your collars. So these are actually on there pretty good. You don't want to set it so the guide wire is right against the flat work. You want it to be about 1 millimeter off of it. So there's a little space between where the coil is winding around and the bottom and top of the flat work. The reason you want to do that is 2 things. For one, when you're winding, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the coil, and it's going to make the coil spread out over that area anyway. But if you don't do that, it's going to start piling up on the top and bottom, and it might even start pushing the flat work up on the top, where it'll start bowing out on the ends, and that's not something that's really good. So you can see here, this is pretty much perfect. On both the bottom and the top, we have about 1 millimeter clearance between where the coil is winding and the top and bottom of the bobbin. So this is good. Next, we're going to just start spooling up the pickup winder, and we're going to slowly increase the speed until we're comfortable. You don't have to go all the way at first. You can go about halfway, get comfortable with that, and then keep going, keep increasing the speed. It goes up to 1,000 RPMs. We're pinching the wire between our thumb and our pointer finger, and we're not putting a whole lot of pressure on it. We're just letting it guide through. We want to stop after about 1,000 turns here. Just kind of make sure everything's laying down right. And this looks really good. This looks pretty even, so I'm happy with this. One thing about pressure is you don't want too much, because you can snap the wire. You can also stretch it, so you'll get more of a resistance value, because the wire will become more thin. Inside of the kit, there is a table that will be included that will show you how many winds you have to go around to get an approximate resistance, Henry, and resonant peak frequency. This will allow you to target how many winds you want to put on the coil, either by using resistance, Henrys, or the resonant peak frequency. That way you don't have to do a lot of guesswork. What you can see here is I'm going back and forth evenly, and once in a while I'm snapping it back and forth a little bit. The reason I'm doing that is called scatter. In a pickup, if you lay down the wire too parallel to itself and too perfectly evenly, then it actually will make the pickup sound worse, because there's something called capacitance that builds up. And what that is kind of electric bleed off between the wires. So if you scatter the pickup, or in other words, make it so those wires crisscross and do all kinds of weird stuff, then they have less of a chance of having that cross chatter, and that will preserve some of your high-end sound. There's really no exact way to do this. You can make your own way to do it. I've done pickups where I pretty much zigzag randomly all over the entire time. I do some things where I do like 6 in a row even, then 6 in a row scattered, and it's all good. After we're done winding it to our target, we're going to take the pickup off the bobbin, and we're going to take that double-sided tape off. We want to make sure that everything's stacked up really well. There's no really loose wires. Nothing got wound around the poles, or nothing got wound around the outside of the flat work. Everything here looks pretty good. Everything looks pretty tight. We're going to make sure that we wind that final wire pass around on the bottom. We're not going to wind it around the top and then bring it to the bottom. We're going to make sure that it winds around the bottom. And you can see here that it kind of got a little bit high, so I'm just adding a couple turns and slowly walking it down to the bottom. That way it tucks in nicely right against the flatwork, and there's a lot less chance of it breaking. Just like before, we're going to go ahead and take that sandpaper. We're going to clean off that wire end after we put it through the eyelet that we want it to go through. Here you can see that I used one of the tap eyelets because this is going to be a tapped coil, but if you were done winding it here and you were happy, you just put it all the way to the positive eyelet instead. So just like I said, we're going to clean that off. We're going to thread it back through the eyelet 3 or 4 times, and then we're going to tie it off and make sure that everything is secure and snug. This coil I'm tapping, so you can see that I stopped at the outward eyelet at one point, and then I wound again. I did that with some enamel wire, and then I stopped at the second eyelet, and I'm going to do this one more time for the third eyelet. That way I have 3 different voicings for the pickup. And what I'm doing is whenever I get the pickup wire through the eyelet a few times, I always go back through and thread the pickup wire under itself and tie it around. That prevents it from moving around a lot, especially when I'm soldering. Everything's nice and predictably in place. There's a lot less chance of things getting caught. So now I'm going to tin the lead wire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up the lead wire with a bead of solder on the soldering iron, and then I'm going to feed in the solder. And you can see that's how you can get a really nice silvery tin on there. Now we're going to take that tinned end, we're going to put it through the eyelet of the ground, and we are going to heat up both the eyelet and the tinned end of that wire at the same time. That way when the solder flows, it flows both into the wire and also onto the eyelet, and it makes for a really nice, pretty, secure connection. This is why you don't want to start off tapping a coil unless you're really good at soldering, because if you get one of these wires in one of these solder pools and it gets too hot too many times, it's going to be really frail and it could break. Once we have everything secured and soldered, we're going to go ahead and pull them through the middle hole there, just so that way it takes off a lot of mechanical stress that are on the wires, and it doesn't pull on the connection, it pulls on the part that goes through the hole. We're going to set up a Campbell soup can or any other kind of can, and we're going to put that wax that was included inside of it, inside of a pot of boiling water. Do not put the can directly on an open flame. You need to do it this way, because if you don't, it's going to be way too hard to take care of the heat, and it is a little bit dangerous. So we're going to let that boil until it's all liquid. Then we're just going to plop the pickup in there, and you can pot for anywhere between 5 to 20 minutes. There's a whole lot of information on the length of time you do that, but I usually do it for 5 or until the bubbles stop. Once we pull it out, we're going to dab it lightly off, especially in the top and bottom. That way you don't have excess wax. And as you can see, everything is nicely potted. I usually put one more wrap of tape around it just to secure the wires, and then give it a quick dip in the wax one more time. That way it seals everything up. This way, if you ever spill any soda or beer or whatever on it, it's not going to work its way in there and rust it over time. Be very careful with the magnets that come with this kit. They are very, very powerful. They are so powerful, you do not want to get your cell phone anywhere near them. You do not want to go near them if you have a pacemaker. You don't want to go near them if you have any kind of medical equipment or anything going on or any plates in your body. Do not do it. These magnets are so strong that if they fly together, they will shatter. You need to wear glasses. You need to make sure that your fingers aren't anywhere near where they could fly together, because it can break a fingertip. You need to be very, very careful with these. The best way to do this is with safety glasses, put it in between a vise. If you don't have a vise, you can put it in between something that's going to separate those 2 magnetic pieces from each other, and you can still slide the pickup in between. So what you're going to do is look on the top of your flatwork. In this case, this one is north up. So we want the magnetic pole on the pickup to be north. If you have a compass laying around, you can actually tell which way you're going to do that. You can see that it's pointing that way. So what I want to do is I want to put the pickup in there facing the opposite direction of where north is pointing. And that's going to give me a north-facing magnet. So you're just going to put it in between there. You're going to wiggle it back and forth. You can see my hands are not in between the magnets. They're holding onto the wires. And watch how hard that is to get off of that magnet. I'm going to have to actually rip it upward, and it's got a lot of force. So be very careful, please. Don't go out and buy a magnet meter along with this kit. You don't need it. I'm going to show you right now that the magnets that I provided are strong enough to get the maximum potential out of Alnico 5 rod magnets. This is a Gauss meter. As you can see, this is a south up pickup as shown on the top, and we are going to go and head and touch the probe to the top of these poles. And we're looking for readings somewhere between maybe like mid 9s to 1100. that is a good reading for a Alnico 5 magnet. As long as they're somewhere in between there, they may not all be consistent. That's totally normal. That's exactly what you want to see. And as you can see here, they are well within that range. Some of them even getting up to over 1,000. And the S on the left high end of the screen is showing you that they are, in fact, south up. Next time you see this, it's going to be the kit being ready for sale. So after January 1st, everything's going to be on the TikTok shop, ready to go. You can order them. They come in different kinds of magnet wire. You can have either foam bar or enamel. We also have black, vintage, and white pickup covers. You can have them pre-assembled like I showed you in this video, or you can have the bobbins and everything apart so you can assemble them yourselves if you want to do that. Just always remember, be careful of that magnet, and I hope you guys have fun.